The night began the way so many family celebrations do, a brightly lit banquet hall, walls lined with pastel balloons, children chasing each other across polished floors, and a long table filled with birthday gifts wrapped in glittering paper. It was meant to be a simple gathering, a child's birthday party, a moment of pure innocence at the start of the holiday season. But at 5:58 p.m., joy turned to terror. Witnesses would later describe a sudden silence, a strange shift in the air, as if the room itself sensed danger moments before it arrived. Then came the first shot. A single crack that froze the crowd, followed instantly by a rapid burst that tore through music, laughter, and the fragile sense of safety families believed they still had. In seconds, confusion melted into screaming. Parents grabbed their children, diving under tables, overturning chairs, pressing their bodies against the floor. Others sprinted toward the exits, stumbling over balloons and half-eaten plates of food. The smell of gunpowder drifted into the room, mixing with the scent of frosting and spilled fruit punch. Somewhere near the center of the hall, a child cried out for his mother. Another screamed that her brother wouldn't wake up. Adults shouted for everyone to get down, shouted for help, shouted names that were swallowed by chaos. Gunfire erupted again, louder this time, closer, ricocheting off metal fixtures and shattering decorations. More than 100 people had packed the hall, many of them children. A place built for joy became an echo chamber of terror. As bullets tore through walls and tables, the once vibrant room dimmed. Music cut off mid-song. The birthday cake, still topped with candles waiting to be lit, sat untouched, illuminated only by flashes of emergency lights outside the windows. Authorities would later say they believed the attack may have been targeted. But that truth, or speculation, offered little comfort to the families caught in the crossfire. To them, it felt like death had simply walked through the door without reason, without warning, without mercy. 4 people were killed. 3 of them were children ages 8, 9, and 14. Their names withheld at first, but their absence felt immediately, a weight pressing down on everyone who survived. A 21-year-old young adult, full of life hours earlier, also died before paramedics could save him. 11 others were wounded, some critically. Parents clutching children covered in blood. Cousins holding pressure on wounds while shouting for medics. Friends trying desperately to carry loved ones outside, unsure whether bullets were still being fired or whether they had finally stopped. Outside the banquet hall, the scene was equally haunting. Families spilled into the parking lot, many barefoot. Others clutching their children so tightly their own hands bled. One woman screamed into a cell phone that she couldn't find her son. A man knelt beside his brother, shaking him gently, whispering that help was coming, even as the truth tightened in his throat. By the time deputies arrived, the gunmen were gone. The traces left behind of shell casings, shattered glass, blood smeared on the floor told a story of violence that would take days to piece together. Investigators canvassed the area throughout the night, marking evidence, interviewing witnesses whose hands still shook from shock. Some spoke of multiple shooters. Others said they heard automatic fire. Many said they saw shadows running from the hall before patrol cars arrived, disappearing into the dark streets surrounding the venue. The sheriff's office would call it one of the worst tragedies in Stockton's history. They said they believed the shooting was not random. They said they were searching for suspects. They said they needed the community's help. But for families standing in hospital corridors that night, none of it mattered because nothing would bring back the children who should have been blowing out candles instead of being carried away on stretchers. Parents described the agony of waiting for answers, pacing hospital floors, clutching stuffed animals that still smelled like their children. One father broke down as he held a tiny birthday hat crushed under his hand, the cardboard bent and stained. Another mother sat silently, staring at her bloodied shoes, unable to speak. Inside the banquet hall, investigators walked through a battlefield of innocence and deflated balloons, overturned chairs, a spilled punch bowl that had mixed with blood on the floor. A child's jacket lay crumpled beside a cluster of yellow evidence markers. On the far table, untouched gifts seemed to mock the room with their bright colors. Stockton woke up the next morning to a city in mourning. Candlelight vigils formed outside the hall, neighbors quietly lighting tea candles and leaving toys, cards, and white roses. Faith leaders prayed over families too numb to respond. Teachers from nearby schools hugged one another and cried, knowing empty desks awaited them Monday morning. Reporters asked why it happened. Officials asked for patience. The community asked for justice. But the families asked for something no one could give them: their children back. The investigation continued into the following days, with deputies poring over surveillance footage from nearby businesses, analyzing ballistic evidence, and pleading for witnesses to come forward. Images of the banquet hall circulated online, breaking hearts across the nation. A birthday celebration turned into a national headline. A moment meant to be happy became a tragedy symbolizing so many others. In homes across Stockton, leftover decorations still hung on walls, and open presents stayed stacked in corners, reminders of a life interrupted. Parents walked past empty bedrooms filled with memories of drawings on walls, backpacks on floors, beds unmade, and wondered how their world had changed so brutally in a single moment. Days later, some families returned to the banquet hall. The police tape fluttered in the cold wind, the building silent. They stood in front of it, lighting candles and whispering names. The hall, once filled with the sound of children's laughter, now stood as a monument to loss. The question remained: who pulled the trigger? Why? And will anyone be held accountable? Investigators insisted the attack may have been targeted, that answers would come, that the truth would surface. But the silence that followed each press briefing began to feel longer, heavier, louder. The echoes of that night will never fade from Stockton. Not from the parents who lived through it. Not from the children who survived it. Not from a community that now looks at every celebration with a shadow of fear. The birthday that should have been filled with joy will forever be remembered as the night innocence was stolen. Oh well, in Stockton will carry for years. A reminder that even moments built for love can be shattered in an instant, and that healing, justice, and truth, while desperately needed, often come too slowly for those left behind.